Hey, how's it going? Stuth here in WBRU studios with the amazing and the amazingly prolific Chad Stokes. February 24th, he's playing at the Met in Pawtucket. And on top of that, he is our record holder for Smash and Trash. 3 times in a row he won that. So with our lives, our time. Yeah. Right. Chad, thanks for being with us today. How are you doing, man?
Hey, man. Nice to see you.
So yesterday, your second solo album, got it right here, The Horse Comanche, went on shelves. It's finally dropped. How does it feel to have this one out there, man?
Yeah, it feels great. You know, those songs have been kicking around, some longer than others. So to have them, you know, get some oxygen, it feels good.
Definitely. And I was hearing a little bit about, you had a unique crowdfunding effort for it. So you didn't do like a pledge drive or anything like that. You actually went on tour to sort of crowdfund the album.
Yeah, we did a living room tour. We kind of brought together the idea of living room tour and crowdfunding. And so
cool.
We just went into, you know, sometimes with my family, sometimes by myself. We drove around and went into people's houses.
That's awesome. That's great. I think that should be a model for how crowdfunding should be done.
Awesome. It was great. I gotta say it seemed to work real well for kind of, I don't know, my life at the moment.
Gotcha. Cool. So the name of the album, The Horse Comanche.
Yes.
It made me research the story about the Horse Comanche. I had no idea about it at all. Horse Comanche, the only surviving member of the Battle of Little Bighorn in 1876. Did you know about the story when
Actually,
you wrote?
Didn't.
You didn't?
No. That's confusing for me to say because it doesn't seem possible.
Yeah, right.
And I've always been into, since I was a kid, studied and read about Native Americans, and but so maybe it was in there somewhere, but for me it was just it was part of a larger picture of that song, which is a trilogy. Song, Horse Comanche, and that's just in the first act of the song, and it just the horse there is a kind of exemplifies or symbolizes this wild ride that is living. You know, that's all it was for me. And then when I started going into it, and I was like, oh my God, there actually is a horse, and that horse still exists. You know, like we went into when we played Kansas,
you went to the Kansas University where they have it on display?
Yeah, the horse is on display.
That's awesome.
And with the, you know, so you got to stand in front of and like look into its marble eyes.
That's great.
And it was kind of spiritual.
I bet.
My brother and the rest of the bandmates just stood there in silence, you know, right in front of the horse.
That's absolutely incredible. So with this album, you mentioned the Horse Comanche means sort of to you like the crazy ride that we go through in life, and just sort of exemplifies that. With writing this album, Simmercane 2, which was released in 2011, your first solo album, that was more of a concept album based around traveling and such. With the Horse Comanche, what you just said, would that be sort of the theme of this album as a whole?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's kind of the flagship song for me, is that track.
Okay.
And I think that idea, that kind of, it's nothing new, but taking a step back and just, you know, because that song also gets into space travel and stuff, and
right, yeah.
and it's just amazing, you know, to think that, you know, look at all of us, these creatures on this like this, you know, this orb that's hurtling through the universe.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of that idea, and a lot of it is you know, thinking about that journey, and also and where love fits into that, and
gotcha.
You know, like cosmic love, or you know, just kind of, if the meaning of life is love, you know, like then that kind of I guess that's what I'm trying to sing about in the song, is as obtuse as it is, and as the chance that we're all here, you know, like there, if we can find these bright points in our life that are surrounded by love, that's kind of the idea.
That's great. I like that as an overall concept. On the Horse Comanche, you worked with Sam Beam, better known as Iron and Wine. You also worked with Brian Deck, who's worked with Gomez before, and Noah Georgeson, who's worked with Joanna Newsom, Devendra Banhart, and so you worked with a lot of people. What did how was working with those three guys, and what how were their three sort of touches on the production differing?
Sam was kind of interested in the lyrics more than anyone else, which seems makes total sense.
Right.
Of course. He's just like, what are you trying to say here? It was fun to kind of, he kind of pushed me in that direction. And him and Brian both kind of, we were, because I went there with just the acoustic demos and basically had, during that Polar Vortex in Chicago, had this, met with basically Sam's band and looked around for beats, for drum beats and what's going to work here and bass lines. And, so they were both pretty instrumental in fleshing out the song. Brian is just more, it was just what you'd expect, I guess. Brian's pretty type A and like, let's get the sounds, let's like, really responsible and just like that. And Sam's is more, approaches things from left field a little bit more.
Right.
And Noah Georgeson is a great combo of both, to leave Chicago and then to record the two songs in LA with Noah. It was like this California, like way more touchy-feely, Chicago and the East Coast is kind of like straight-laced, I feel like, but it was like going out there to California, which is like getting into a warm bath, and it was just like a hazy, like cool thing out there in California, and it was appropriate that those songs are like some of the more sunnier songs on the record, so it kind of made sense. And Noah is a really just I don't know, it's just really cool part of that whole like folk, like freaky folk thing that I'm really into, Cool. So it was great. It was great to be with him too.
Yeah, I also noticed on the album there seems to be a little more finger picking than on past albums. Was that sort of Sam
that
inspired?
was Sam. That was straight up. I was doing my thing and strumming away. Yeah, and I was like, I kind of think that's what this song needs here. And and he says, he's like, I think you have a lot of songs like that already. And basically, I picked very little. And
was that on tracks like Pine Needle Tea? It was like, you need finger picking here?
Pine Needle Tea was finger picking to begin with. I think because I couldn't really do that with a pick. Gotcha. But tunes like Walter, where I would usually just go, was more like. Like kind of like just more intricate stuff and give it more flavor, and maybe less generic in that way too.
Cool.
And Sam, comes from Iron and Wine, where it's like, it's kind of, it made sense that he was saying that too. Like, it's like, let's bring out the subtleties of what you're doing instead of just like kind of, instead of just blazing through things.
Definitely. One of the tracks that I want to focus on the record, it's the lead single, "Our Lives, Our Times." It's the one that was on Smash and Trash 3 weeks in a row. First off, have you ever considered doing an outright hip hop record? Because you are essentially rapping there. It is absolutely incredible.
I kind of went back to my early days of Dispatch when I was really into rapping. I like I like rhyming and putting words into small places. So I like the idea that I don't know what will happen with this. Right now, Pete from Dispatch he's putting out all these like these tracks, these like rap songs. So the next Dispatch record might lean there a little bit.
Gotcha.
But I don't, straight. If someone approached me and wanted to do it, I would do it. I'm not sure I would do it on my own volition.
Gotcha. And so with Our Lives, Our Time, is there also a core theme of that, or is this a bunch of themes that you think about and you worry about that are in Our Lives, Our Time?
Yes. It's a bit broad, but
gotcha.
It speaks anything from the. Our prison complex in this country, to the environment, to gay marriage, to, kind of touches on a bunch of stuff.
Right.
But those are, just thinking about it now, those are probably the main ones. Just that at this, and it says it in the song with the, that we're still in a time of intolerance, that I guess after all, I just wish that we we're more progressive than we are, or more enlightened than we are.
Definitely.
You know, even as such a this is a wonderful country, but we're still years and years behind.
Lagging, yeah, we're pretty far behind.
Behind other countries in many ways, and it's a little bit frustrating that we haven't figured out the healthcare yet. I mean, we're on the right path, but or that gay marriage isn't federally
right. I mean, it should be federal, but hey,
sanctified.
Alabama yesterday. Finally legal in Alabama, so that's 37 states.
That's pretty good.
13 left, but that's 13 too many where it's not legal.
Yeah. And the death penalty is another one.
Right.
So we're getting there, but it's a little slow for my liking.
Gotcha. Switching gears a little bit, you mentioned you work with Dispatch. The last album with Dispatch was 2012. That was the same year as a state radio album. And you guys sort of mentioned in December that you're working on the 6th studio album now. So how busy are you? You're touring behind the Horse Comanche. You're coming to the Met in Pawtucket on February 24th. And are you writing the next Dispatch album all along in that same time?
We're getting together every 3 or 4 months at this time, and then to kind of jam and see what comes out, and a combination of bringing some loose songs to the table and just kind of making up stuff on the spot.
Gotcha.
But I'm always, whenever I have a moment, I love writing stuff. So certain tunes do come up that I feel like would lend themselves or will lend themselves to Brad and Pete, and I kind of guide them in that direction, I guess.
Gotcha. And so you have those 2 shows with Dispatch coming up later at Madison Square Garden in July for what's it called again? Dispatch Hunger, right? Yeah, Dispatch. So you're still working with all your wonderful, amazing organizations. You got Calling All Crows, you got the Elias Project. What are you focusing on with your charitable work?
With Calling All Crows, we've been focused on refugees in Syria. So that's women and children mostly.
It's very important, especially right now.
Yeah, it's just millions of people who are displaced and in the middle of the winter, freezing, and can't even get into the refugee camps.
Right.
There's just too many, and so that crisis just is something we've been focused on, and raising money to get. Send blankets and send these winterization packets over there, and that's kind of been a theme of ours for the last year. And we're still doing some service projects, and on this last tour, on the Chadwick Stokes tour, we were meeting with refugees in different cities and hearing their stories. And
on the tour,
yeah,
that's great.
And in some cases, doing things like these thrift shops or secondhand shops that are tied into where refugees work and often get a lot of their goods that they need when they first come there. These kind of, I wouldn't say halfway houses, but these places where the refugees are welcome and can get a lot of goods that are cheap. And so we'll be in there helping out, or we'll be at these gardens, which are amazing, especially for refugees who in these urban areas. And a lot of these refugees, first of all, that food is they just don't have a lot of money, so it's hard, and they have families, sometimes quite large families. So the gardens do a couple things. They grow food, and they also culturally they're a way for that person to grow crops from their own land and kind of stay in touch with who they are, and they're really amazing spaces, and so that was fun to visit a couple of those too.
That's great. I really appreciate that. You're probably the artist in my mind that stands most behind what their lyrics and everything say with all the foundations and organizations that you run. So thank you very much for that.
Thanks,
what are the websites that we can see Calling All Crows?
callingallcrows.org and probably dispatchmusic.com.
Okay.
I don't know if we have dispatchhunger.com, but I'm sure it's if you
through the Dispatch
throw it in there, yeah. And that's just basically something Brad, Pete, and I could come together and like we were just saying, our country does a lot of things right, but there's still, you know, the minimum wage is so low, and it's really hard for these families. A lot of single parents out there trying to work, get their kids in school, and the nutrition, it can be pretty poor and kind of a downward spiral. So we are just looking at some of those reasons of why, you know, because it's not a question of food production. The food is there. It's just how can we kind of break the cycle and get away from the cheap fast food or the cheap unhealthy food and try to facilitate cheap good food.
Right. That sounds great. We're going to shift a little bit here to a game. So are you ready for a game?
Yes.
Chad. 5 and 25, you know what this is all about.
Sounds familiar.
I'm gonna, yeah. I think you played with Blair. I switched up 2 of the questions.
Okay.
So you've probably had the first 3 already, but let's do this. All right. Okay. Question number 1. What is your favorite album that you own?
Rage Against the Machine, Evil Empire.
Nice. All right. Question number 2. What is your favorite band that you've seen live in concert? Or artist?
Blind Melon.
Blind Melon. Awesome. Question number 3. If you could pick one person, living or dead, to play music with, who would that be?
Jimi Hendrix.
Jimi Hendrix. Solid. All right. Question number 4. Chad, if you had a superpower, what would that be?
Geez, everyone wants to fly. I don't know.
We have gotten that a lot, yeah.
Who wouldn't? I guess shapeshifter with animals.
Nice. That's awesome. Yeah, I like that you specify with animals, especially. All right. 5th and final question. If there was a movie made about your life, who would you want to portray you?
Heath Ledger.
Heath Ledger? That's great. That's absolutely fantastic. All right. I just want to ask you one more thing, and it has to do with what comes with the Horse Comanche when you buy it in solid CD compact disc
That could
form.
be Dead or Alive, obviously, with Heath Ledger.
Right. Yeah, no, of course. No,
It's kind of
we love
it's kind of a fantasy question, so I guess the fantasy answer is
no, definitely. You did nothing wrong there, Chad. Don't worry. All right, so inside this, it comes with a poster, and I'm trying to get out the booklet.
Yeah, it's loaded.
Yeah, it's awesome. These shadow puppets.
Yeah.
It's awesome for many reasons. 1, it looks really cool, and 2, is this supposed to be you on the front?
That's supposed to be me. Yeah.
Check that out. That's pretty awesome. I can actually take out the poster. It has a full size of that. But the shadow puppets, are they themes for the songs? I noticed that the one that's on the back of the album is a shadow puppet in the booklet that is for Our Lives, Our Time. So.
Yeah. They're from an old book from like 1820s.
Gotcha.
That I found up in New Hampshire, so cool. And I'm pretty into shadow puppets. You know, I like them.
These are incredible.
They're really incredible. Oh. And to see someone, I don't know if it, as a kid on PBS, there used to be like, I don't know what it was part of, but there used to be a little shadow puppet segment where it's really gifted. I'd like to do a video because there are people who are really talented, and I don't think they're being used that much these days. So
Can you do some like on the back wall here?
I can just do the usual dog.
Oh, okay.
We'll see. I don't know if you can see it.
It's a little blurry because the light's so far away.
But I'm not that. But the interesting one about
it's pretty much an instructional booklet.
Yeah, you can
because the hands are in here.
The hands, you can kind of see it.
So awesome.
It is really cool. And the one on the back, my favorite is the goose, and I think that they came with titles, and that one was, "The Goose, a Prisoner."
The Goose, a Prisoner.
Yeah, or I think I think it's the Goose, a Prisoner, not a goose. Not the goose, a prisoner. A goose, the prisoner. The goose, a prisoner.
Let me see if I can get out your face here.
The Goose, a Prisoner.
Oh, gosh. I'm so bad at foldy things. There we are. So if you buy the physical copy, you get awesome bonus stuff with it and eco-friendly packaging. So
and that has the names of the people from the living room tours.
Check that out. All right, Chad, thank you so much for your time. You are awesome. And Horse Comanche, it's out now February 24th at the Met in Pawtucket. Thanks so much.
Thanks, man.